What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Adobe Live. We're back with Jaslin Tonton. We have some exciting things today. But before we get in, my man, Jaslin, how you feeling?
Feeling great, man. Feeling great. So let's do this. I'm excited.
Likewise. Guys, we're going to hand off the reins to Jaslin in just a moment. He's going to tell you a little bit of who he is, his background, and then we will get into what we're going to get into today. But before we do that, we're just very quickly going to go over our schedule in which we had today, and then we will pass it on over to Jaslin. By the way, while we have the schedule up, I want to let you guys know, those of you who are over on YouTube, first off, make sure to hit the like button there, but then come join the family over on Behance, because that is where we're going to read the comments and really everything from what we're going to be going over today, or Jaslin is going to be going over today. Make sure you want to have your questions answered. So come join us over here in Behance, and our moderator should be giving you guys the link. Today, it is me and Jaslin going over some really interesting web design stuff. And then up next, we have our boy, Howard Pinsky, getting into XD Daily Creative Challenge next. All right. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Jaslin Tonton. Jaslin, what do we got for today?
All right.
Really, background on yourself, my man. Let's start there. I was trying to race past and get into things, but let's start a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you guys that was with us yesterday, this is going to feel like a deja vu moment. So I'm going to try my best to keep it short. So as the screen says, my name is Jaslin Tonton. I am a designer and creative director. Again, I just want to reiterate that I am very excited to be here again and just want to get into this design. So I'm going to keep this short. I was born in Haiti, but I'm currently living in Central Florida, where I'm a creative director at Very Big Things. But we're doing some amazing things over there. Also, just wanted to give you guys a quick snapshot of the style of work that I've done. So this is like a screen of some client work mixed with some personal project. On my free time, I like to just play with typography and just play with layout, draw some inspiration, and do something cool when I have free time and I have some client work. Actually, I'm part owner of this company, so I kind of told it there. Not free advertisement, but just saying. I've been in design for 10 years. Been in design for a little bit over 10 years now, getting old. But within that time, I've learned a lot, and I've had a lot of great mentors in my life that really have helped me get to where I'm at. So I just want to show you guys some of the things that I do today. So today we're gonna continue with what we started yesterday, which was with, again, quick background. So this is Black History Month in the state. So I'm designing a site about where I'm from, which is Haiti, but also because they were the first Black country to actually get their independence. So it's a pretty big deal. And, so this is going to be like a bit of design, a little bit of history lesson for those who are interested. So that's what we're going to do today. So with that said, let's just get into it.
Before we hop, we got one more thing. I want to say hello to all of you guys in the chat. And if a couple of you guys just popped in, Cindy, Wade, what's going on? Voodoo, what's happening? Again, we want to reiterate, we had a lot of good questions yesterday. And as you guys know, if you're back again for part 2, our man Jaslin is the master at answering questions, and he goes in on them just like he's got psychic powers. So again, make sure to drop your questions in if you have any. And we have an artist spotlight last 30 minutes of today. So, all right, just had to get those last things out there. Jaslin, go ahead.
I mean, as I like to say, the host with the most gross. Honestly, if that's not your intro, you need to change it. It just worked. I mean, the host with the most gross. I mean, come on, man. You see, I'm giving you free tips here.
I'll let you trademark it.
Awesome. So quick recap from what we did yesterday. So yesterday we completed the homepage. But like I mentioned, I was gonna do some work offline. So I went into there. I didn't tweak a lot of things. So I did change some of the color a little bit. So this is kind of where we started. Again, that's why I like to have that the previous version there so you guys can see the difference. Like, so this is where we started. It was a little bit too warm for me, like the color. So when I was looking back at it yesterday, fresh eyes, something I mentioned a lot, like, take a break from your work, come back to it. So I went back in and I just kind of like tweaked the colors a little bit to kind of tone it down a little bit. So this is where we're at. So while I was at it, I was like, you know what? I have this menu button and you guys probably wondering what's going to be in there. So I decided, okay, you know what? I'm just going to build a menu. It wasn't a lot of work. It's just literally me just copying and pasting the same thing and changing text. So you guys didn't miss anything. So the next page we're going to work on is going to be the French rule. So I went ahead and did the header because it's literally just copying this and pasting it and changing the copy. So once again, just wanted to speed things up a little bit. But before we do into that, let's do a preview of what we accomplished yesterday. So again, keeping in mind that we are only using two typefaces, Founder, Grotesque, and Solid Display, which I have on the side here. I'll show you. Guys, for this one, this is Solid Display regular. It's something I mentioned a lot yesterday, was go big to create contrast. Because we're not using we're only using really just the background color. That's gonna be our only color in this site. So all of a contrast is coming from the text style. And so we needed to bring a lot of visual interest to this using typography. So this is the header that we did yesterday. I didn't really do much to it. I left it as it was. So yeah, so this is what we have so far. A lot of things already happening. This is on hover stage. So when you hover this one, you see this. And so this is what we have so far. The only thing I added offline while you guys were sleeping was just the footer. So I just wanted to make sure when we got back today, let's just get into design and do a couple more things. So with that said, so today we're gonna work on the French rule, 1750 to 1784. So we have some more copy, we have some text, and this page again is gonna just be filled with tons of text. But if you guys remember yesterday, something that I mentioned is this is the foundation that we're building in this homepage. So a lot of the things we're gonna do in here, it's just gonna be repeating what we did in the homepage, copy and pasting the style. So I did go ahead and actually created a couple styles, which is super easy to do. I Shift Command T, and then you just go right here, and then you'll have styles. I like to wait to create my style when I'm satisfied with the final version of that homepage, because again, we're building a house, right? So you're putting the foundation, right? So you don't want to committing to anything too early. So at least I don't. I want to make sure I take a step back, come back with fresh eyes, and once I do that, then I'm like, okay, this looks good. This will probably be the style that I use across the site. And the reason to actually build your style at that point is that if you change your mind, then it actually reflect everywhere else. So there's a lot of good reason to do that, but I like to wait. So let's get to it. So we're gonna start by, so now we're gonna go to the French rule. I'm gonna bring some copy in. I already have all the copies in one location. So 1750 to 1784, that's the top section. We already did that. So
we do have two pretty good questions, and I think we went over them yesterday a little bit, but I really like these questions in the chat. And I would love to kind of dive into these while we're messing with the copy here. So Kemi says, Jaslin, do you design with the viewport in mind? If so, how do you take into account the different browsers and screen sizes? Is that because that's something that's really fundamental, but I would love you to kind of break that down too, because I think that's really important for us to know as well.
Yes, so that's a really great question, right? So so to me, when I'm designing, again, there's a lot of I approach things differently depending on based on the research, how most people are going to use it. So for example, if we knew for a fact that most of our audience were going to be coming from mobile, I would approach this as a mobile first site. Right. But because based on the research that was done, most of the audience going to come, that go into the site that's going to read this coming from desktop. So I approach this desktop first. But with that said, as I'm designing this, again, that's the beautiful thing when you're using typography, because we're lucky in this sense because a lot of the site is just type. So as I'm designing this, I'm already kind of planning in my head what a mobile version of this could look like. And for the most part, it's gonna stay pretty much the same because we only have type. It's just a matter of just resizing the type as I go to. So that's kind of like my approach. So what I always say, like, just think of your audience, think of what you're doing. And even if you are approaching this mobile first, you should still start thinking of what the desktop could possibly look like. So like, and that's why, like, wireframing, again, is important for those type of thing, like sketching it out on paper. So do those steps first. It will really help ease it for you when you go into the next size up. So does that kind of answer the question? I felt like it.
I think that's perfectly well said. Yeah, because we were talking yesterday. I think it was really good because yesterday we were talking about, how we're going to start off in desktop and how we're going to start off in mobile. So I think you bridged the gap of, well, how are we going to start the approach and things of that nature. So Kemi, I hope that answers your question. If not, just refine what you got.
And
we'll come
again,
back to you.
I will also be available in Discord so I can go into a little bit more details, because sometimes, I don't want to take too much time like with answering the questions, because then we don't get into the design. So I'm trying to find the balance, right? And
right.
My boy over here is gonna help me do that. Yeah, we boys
That's
now.
what we're here for.
We boys now. We talk about it offline, and we made up from yesterday, so now we're good again. He's not gonna get me any tricky questions this time. He promised. All right. So diving into this, right? So we have a timeline that we already established over here. So we know, okay, so the way I'm gonna approach this is based on those timelines. So we have 1750 to 1784, and the copy, again, like I mentioned at the beginning, like, it really does pay to read the copy, so you can really see, like, how to handle these things. So what I'm going to do is, like, okay, so we have a bunch of copy, and again, also think of how people are going to navigate the site as you're designing this. So that will really help, like, you start like formatting, like, how things should look and things like that. So that being said, like, I want people to, like, as they're reading this, I want them to focus on, like, okay, 1750, this is what happened. Then we go to the next line, we go to the next line. So the way, like, we're going to approach this today. So I'm going to do some, I just kind of want to play around with the type until I get it to where it feels good. I don't know what that is yet. Again, like I said yesterday, it's a lot of just playing around. Make sure I bring enough emphasis to the things that need to be emphasized and de-emphasize things that shouldn't be emphasized. So, all right, so now we're gonna, I like this, but just italics. We already established this italic thing over there. So again, just for consistency's sake, we're just gonna keep that going. I'm gonna bring this text in here. Something I mentioned again yesterday, the reason I use those slashes, like, and I use bare, like, as I go to it, it tells me, okay, this is a section that I want to put, I highlighted, I want to put a little bit more emphasis on. So make sure I keep that in mind as I go to it. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat, but that's gonna be tough. So let's do this. So I'm gonna, and I'm using the grade again to kind of help me with, keep things consistent as I go to, because we have a lot of text. So knowing, like, I could try to do this manually, be like, okay, I'm gonna put all the dates here, I'm gonna skip one, and it's gonna be this much. But with the grade, I can just literally just look and know, okay, all the dates gonna fall in here, all the text gonna start from here and go to there, or depending on things. So that's why this grade is in here again. It's gonna come handy. This thing is getting on the way. So let's just bring it down. Up, that's what we're looking for here. So let's go to regular. So I'm just gonna, and I don't, again, like, I can't zoom out. From yesterday, we already established, again, some of this pull quote stuff, right? So I'm just gonna copy that style. And so I think it's Command C and Option Command V. I could be one. Oh, here it is.
There it is. Memory.
There it is. But because this is not going to be a standalone copy, there's a lot more relevant information that needs to go with this one, as opposed to, like, in the homepage, this was the quote. That was it. There was not going to be anything else. So I'm going to go a little bit shorter, smaller into this. Again, if you guys remembered anything from yesterday, something I keep repeating over and over, default when it comes to typography is not your friend. So go in there. So a couple things to pay attention to, and I'm gonna do one on purpose just to kind of like show you guys something. So avoid things like this as much as you can. Like I think, I want to say that's a widow, and by itself it's an orphan. So you want to avoid like things like this, widows and orphans, as much as you can. So don't leave like a single like things hanging in the bottom. It just make things look messy. So and there's way to fix that. So just really like go to the next line if you have to, but just pay attention. Just go in there and play with it. And again, this is where the baseline grade comes in handy. One of the book that I mentioned yesterday from, which I kind of want to go to that real quick just to, for some of you guys that was in there. So the typography playbook from Process Masterclass, which I have here, like it goes into baseline grade and really dive into it and give a really good explanation on how to use it. So highly recommended taking a look, and it's free. So nothing to lose there. So yeah, so definitely recommend just going over there, take a look at that, give it a good read. You might learn something, you might not, but it doesn't hurt. I mean, I'm not gonna commit saying you will learn something. If you don't put the effort, you might not learn anything. It worked for me. So again, we're gonna come in here again. Like I said yesterday, like a lot of that we're doing is it's just really just visual. Like, does it feels good? Like, it's not, don't stick to the rule. I think it was James Brown was like, he was making music. They're like, does it sounds good? Yeah. Does it feels good? Yeah, then it's music, right? So it doesn't matter what the rule says. If it looks good and it feels good, then, well, it's good. So just want to like, just throw that in there. So there's the general rule of thumb, again, you want to do like 1.2, like, for sizing and things like that. But for me, it's like, it's when it feels good. So we're just gonna kind of like align this right here. So this is like our intro section. And then I'm gonna bring some more copy. I'm gonna try to speak to this because we have a lot of text.
And by the way, you have Big Bro in the chat supporting you.
Oh yeah, like I like to call him my little brother, but he's definitely my bigger brother. He's an artist too. He's actually does some amazing work, but he's more like of a fine art artist. He does like some really awesome painting, but that's subjective. I'm like, what am I gonna say? His painting sucks. I mean, he's my brother. Like, again, we already established this body copy, and I'm not going to change it. I'm just gonna take what it's already established in this page. I'm gonna bring it here. I could have just gone over here to the text style that we created and just apply it. It's the exact same body copy. I just did the whole Command C and Option Command V because shortcuts are great. It helps you get to things faster. But this is all we're gonna be doing today. So just bear with me. As we go through this, there's a lot of text we need to get to. I'm just gonna be putting things down for now so we can get to this a little bit faster. And then I'm gonna come back and you guys, we're gonna do this together where we start cleaning up some of this copy and start to make it look a little bit better. If it doesn't feel right, then we fix it. So I'll come back to this, but I just want to kind of like keep this party going.
And as we're keeping the party going, there is one really good question in the chat from Raul. I believe I'm good enough at web design, but the visual side of things. Do you think it is good enough to get a job? Or should I learn more about the coding part? I think we haven't touched on this at all in either yesterday. So I think this is a great time to get into that.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so if you ask 50 people that question, you're probably gonna get like a split in between 25. So for me, like, I think like, I truly believe like, one can only be master of one thing. But with that being said, I think I don't believe a designer should know how to code, but having an understanding of what is and isn't possible while you're designing will definitely help make your developers' life easier. So you're not coming up with this outrageous concept that just not what the technology, like, we just don't have the technology to do it. So if you're a great designer, I think it's more important to not just be a great visual designer, but to also understand, like, usability. Like, is it functional? Because it can look great, but if it's not functional, then it's, for lack of a better term, it's garbage. Because if people can't interact, they can't use it, then it's worthless. So I think it's more important to be a better, like, understand the functionality and also be able to implement like great visual than it is to understand how to code. But having an understanding of how something might be implemented without actually, like, knowing, like, the limits is good, but I don't think you should have to learn the code. And I'm not a believer that designers should learn the code. It's like saying, I don't know, doctors should learn to change tires. It just, I mean, maybe change tires everyone should do, but I can't. But doctors should learn to, like, fix cars. It's different. Like, everyone's an expert in their own field, and having an understanding on how a car works is great, but you don't have to be a mechanic. So that's my view on it. I don't believe the idea that a designer needs to be able to code, but understanding how codes work and what's possible and what's not possible, then sure. So I hope that helped answer your question. So
I think that was a great answer.
Thank you, Brendan. It means a lot.
Understanding, not knowing really. I think there's a lot of power in understanding only, just so you can help to communicate. I think that you hit the nail on the head. So many people think that they have to, like, know and just, like, learn, like, stop and learn. And then they end up, like, with 50 tools in their toolkit. And it's just like, well, like you said, just be a master at one and then understand what's around you. So good points.
Exactly. Like, you can't, if you happen to be a developer that knows how to design, because I've met a few, very rare, but I've met a few people that are great developers, but that also has a really good eye for design. Then wow, dude, amazing. But no company should be looking for somebody that's a unicorn. Like, it's unfair. Plus, you get burnt out, man. Don't try to get a job where they want you to be a developer and a designer. You're just gonna get burnt out, and it's just not gonna be good for your mental health. So I'm a huge believer in mental health, and keeping yourself sane and finding the balance between work and life is so important. Because yes, you get the job, but then you get burnt out, and then you start having, like, all sense of, it's just not good for anyone involved. You start hating them, they start hating you. So, just don't look for a company that's trying to get you to do everything. It's just not healthy. Like, just you need a company that's gonna, like, let you be an expert in your field and take advantage of that. So that's my point on it. Obviously, I'm very passionate about that. As you guys.
And that's good. Basically, that tagline should be "Stay healthy, my friends."
Exactly.
Mindset-wise.
Yeah, like your mental health is more important than anything else, man. Like, it is so important, right? So, if you guys remember anything from me, is like, as I'm designing, I turn on my grid, I look how things are going. My spacing is all a guess until I actually take a look. So this is what we have so far. And this is essentially the setup for what we're going to be doing to this page. And again, not a lot of things in this page, but it's just paying attention to the type, bring it in a little bit, pull it out, find that contrast, right? So that it's all about that contrast between the body copy and what is essentially your headers. So let's go into preview mode and show you guys, right? So right now, like, it feels a little tight to me. Like, again, something I mentioned a lot too yesterday was that when you're designing and you have, like, only, like, you're only using type, white space is a design element. Typography is a design element. So treat them as part of your layout, because when you're doing something as simple as just, like, all we have in this is just a lot of typography, like, you want the breathing room. You want things to feel, the closer they are together, they start to feel cramped. And like somebody I've worked with always says, digital real estate is free. So seriously, take advantage of it. You're not paying for it. So, right. So take advantage of white space and just let your text breathe. Give them room to express themselves, because they each have their own identity. And when they have room to express themselves, they come out. We're looking at this example, right? So all I did is I just put this on in that style display type, and it is beautiful, bold, it's bigger. And then the rest of this copy, it's easy to read. The leading is not too much. You want to make sure that people, the gaps are not too big. That's why a baseline grid will come handy, but I'm not going to use one for this today. I just kind of want to get to this a little bit faster. So all I'm going to do in here, I'm just going to duplicate this section just because, try not to do too much. Okay, so gonna pull some more copy. And I'm doing more copy and happy to answer any other questions that might come up.
For sure. Samson, yeah, bro, is definitely agreeing on the mental health side of things. Golden is always, I think it's nice to hear when other individuals are saying, like, don't forget about white space. I feel like as artists, I feel like the doing has to deal with the actually I am physically putting something in there, and that's what makes it design. Whereas, you can actually remove things or actually just manage what is on the page already. And that's also part of what is important for designers to do. Understand that taking away is just as impactful as putting on.
Absolutely. I mean, one of my favorite quote is that, a designer knows their work is done, not when there's nothing else to add, but when there's nothing else to take away. So, just go back to the basic. You remove anything. If it's just there just for decoration, sometimes, it's good, but sometimes like you just be like, is this adding anything to this? Then if it's not, then take it away and then just let the white space free. And you'll notice, like, if you start looking at your work that way, just take a step back and be like, do I need this? No, should I take it away? And then you do. And then you're going to start noticing, like, man, simplifying things really like helps, like, makes a difference, So it's like I say, so I'm still not loving this type as it stands. I think it just needs a little bit more, like in terms of the hierarchy. So I might go with a medium in this. And if I do that, then because the weight of the text is a little bit thicker, then I will definitely want to make sure I bring this down a little bit, like the leading. And again, this is design. Like, so I'm just gonna do that and then go back to like fixing that spacing. But like I say, I want to get to a little bit more today. So I'm just gonna. But the good thing is, like, with this one, it's a lot of this copy. We're just gonna be pasting and copying and pasting things. So I'm gonna try to do at least one more page. So that way, like, we can do a little bit more than just copy and paste. So, because I mean, nobody's like, okay, so sure, you're just copying and pasting, but, come on.
But that's part of the beauty, though. I think that's the thing. We're going to, and we do have a really good question here as well. When we get towards the end, I think Akemi is asking, could we get into, once we're done with this, a little bit about the developer handoff? I think that's a great topic towards the end.
Absolutely. I love to talk about developer handoff. I have a lot of developer friends, and some love me, some hate me. But that's friends for you. I'm joking. They all love me. Actually, I think, like, I have a couple in the chat. Jason might be in there watching. Jason Lemond, like, he's a developer, talented dude. Megan might also be in there watching. So I'm just giving a shout out. Natalie might be watching. So those are all my developers. Actually, I have more developer friends than I have designer friends. So that tells you something.
You're a good designer, surrounded by a lot of devs wanting to work with you.
No, I like devs. I like the way their mind think. It's so fun. Like, I don't know. It's like they can just turn it on and just go, and they don't have to think about, like, because I think that's the one thing about development that I love is that, most of the time the code is it's pretty laid out. Like, I mean, if you do an HTML tag and you put italic, you expect it to be italicized. Like, there's some creativity to it for sure, but it's not as much as design. And design, it's almost like every decision you really have to like think of it. But then again, they have to deal with bugs, and we don't. So I guess it balances itself out. You miss one comma and the whole code is gone. So this is a slightly different section, right? So the reason I'm pulling this in, and then I kind of want to explain this, like, and then you guys probably notice, okay, so So again, that's why like reading the text comes handy. So within this text, so there's a section of it that talk about the Maroons, which is where the slave that ran away and they became like, they were fugitives, so they ran away and they were the one that like pretty much started the revolution. So, but most people reading this probably, you know, because there's a lot of text, so you want to make sure that's a very important, you know, part of the history. That's a very important, like, you know, something that needed to be highlighted, right? So so the reason I'm doing it this way, so I'm highlighting that section, and then on the bottom, and the reason the text is tucked in, because this is the definition for what this is, right? So reading the copy really will help you. And also it kind of creates a little bit of a visual break as you're reading this, because if you just kept going and copy, 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 we need visual breaks, especially when you're doing a lot of text. But again, there's only two things we can use. We can use white space or we can use typography. I mean, you could bring a line in there, but that you're just adding extra element that just gonna crowd your design. So just really let the design flow. Use the copy that you're given and just work with that first. And if you need anything else, add it later. But more often than not, don't add anything if you don't need it. So that's my goal. My goal, like I'm always saying, like, you know, remove anything you don't need. Seriously, it's a lot easier to add than it is to remove. But once you start getting into habit of removing things you don't need, it really helps for your design and bring it to life. So we're gonna do a couple more things. So we're actually going to introduce an image for the first time in forever. That's terrible thinking. That's why I don't say. So we have an image, which is, again, it goes with, at least I think we have an image. Here it is. That kind of tied up, like, you know, these sections together. Again, we don't have a lot of images in this thing. So when you have an opportunity to use an image, use it again to be a text break. But at the same time, like, you know, just keep in mind the layout that you already have set up. Like, yes, I could probably go full screen here and it will work, but, you know, at the same time, I feel like, you know, like, why not just, because we already have this line established, so why not just stick with it and only leave this space here? Because again, as we scroll down, we're gonna have more timeline that we need. So right now we're at 1750, 1757, we gotta go to 1784. So there's gonna be more timeline that need to be established. So I don't wanna take away from that space, but this is solely a judgment call. Like, I mean, it's purely like a me not feeling like doing it and feel like this looks better that way as opposed to the other way. So maybe it could look better. I don't know. Maybe let's do this. And again, you guys in the chat, feel free to chime in and be like, yeah, you know, maybe we should go full screen, or maybe we shouldn't. I'm happy to, you know, it's design. Like, you know, part of it is subjective, but yeah, I don't like it full screen. But if everybody in the chat feels strongly about it, then we'll leave it and then we'll come back to it. So for now, since I'm the one with the mouse and I'm controlling this, I'm gonna go with this. All right.
Yeah, guys, if you want to see anything done, you have suggestions in addition to your questions, definitely drop them down in the chat. We're taking a look at those as well. We're here to learn and also have Jaslin break down his process for us. Jaslin, you mentioned we are about to go into all the way to 1784. There's two good questions here that I really want to get into, but I like how because you were answering a lot of good questions here in terms of your breaks and all that. I want to make sure that the next bits that we're about to go through, like the copy and paste, is it going to be mundane tasks that you're going to be able to do while answering complex questions? Just to get that from me real quick.
No, so a couple of things, right? So I was thinking about this, right? So I was like, we can continue this, because again, a lot of it is, there's gonna be a couple of places where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make some design decision, change a couple of things here and there, but for the most part, it's a lot of copy and paste. So one thing we could do, again, feel free in the chat to chime in. We could stop at 1757, maybe just add one more section. And then we can take and we still have a good amount of time left. So don't want to rush anything, because I still want to go back to this and clean it up and do a little bit more to it. But we could actually just stop and maybe we do a page that's completely different. Also, like maybe we can do like maybe the people page, right? So we can jump into that page, which is going to be very different from these two pages. And, so you guys can get a sense of what that site would actually look like some sort of like, the full version of it. But it's up to the people in the chat. So happy to do either or we can continue doing this. There's going to be a couple layout tweaks here and there, but a lot of this, because again, we're not going to be introducing anything that's completely new that we haven't introduced in these sections right here. We have headlines, we have body copy, we have the timeline, we have like some sort of like a pull quote, for example, and we have images. So a lot of it is going to be redundancy for the most part. So we can kind of like go into other pages if that makes more sense to do so. But happy to answer.
I think that would be great. I mean, I really think like I'm excited to see the uniqueness that we're about to jump into, because I think there's a lot of things that people, especially me included in that group, typography wise, I would love to see that in a new, especially if we're going to go into a third page. What is the plan today?
Yeah, we're going to do this page and then jump into a third page. We still have a lot of time, so we don't need to rush. We don't need to rush anything. But yeah, so again, it's going to be a different page, and I'm going to be trying some new stuff, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. Again, the goal is consistency, right? We want to be consistent on everything we do, from page 1 all the way to 404 page not found. We want to make sure there's when somebody go to the 404 page, you're like, oh, okay, this is definitely was designed by the same person with the same amount of details went into that page, because sometimes we forget about those pages. Like, your footers and your 404 are the page that most designers tend to forget the most, but they all as important as everything else, because that's what define the look and feel for that brand. That's what shows how much attention that a designer paid to detail. So, but a lot of it is just going to be like, consistency across. So whatever we establish in those pages, we're not going to break that rule now. Like, when we're using like, upper cases and other places, so we're going to be doing that in those inner pages, but that's really all that's going to be happening, because we already established a lot of rules in here. We're just going to keep reusing those rules over and over and over and over to be consistent. Design can be redundant, but in a good way,
Got you. Well, let's keep going until the chat says, yo, this is what we would like to see. I think we're on a good pacing.
Awesome. But yeah, so I can't answer questions as I'm doing this, because it is pretty much copy and pasting.
All right, cool. Awesome. All right. Questions incoming. All right. First question. We hit on this fairly well yesterday, but I would love to see, and I'm sure many other people, if they're new today, would love to hear this as well. So Taz is asking, I work as the UX researcher, UI UX research / tester at a small company, was wondering, what do you do to improve your design skills if you work alone? Where would you reach out for any help and tips?
I mean, I think, we definitely hit on this yesterday. So for me, the way I do it, again, practice make perfect. If you want to improve your design skill, well, do some design. Right? And I know it sounds cliche, but that's really what it is. So, but one thing I would also recommend, and I mentioned it yesterday, just like constantly getting a healthy dose of design diet, by like looking at people that are doing things that you want to do, because not everyone wants to do typography style website, right? And that's fine.
Right.
Just find your niche, find whatever really piqued your interest, and then look at other people that are in that industry that are doing that and that are doing it amazing. Again, and just follow those people, but also don't be afraid to just reach out and send a Twitter DM or an email to these people, because more often than not, you'll be surprised at how approachable some of these people are and how willing they are to help other people. Because I've done it, when I started designing, I still do it today. Like, I'll go in and I'm like, man, this person is doing some amazing work. I would definitely want to pick their brain. I'll send an email. It does not hurt. But practice, man. Like, find something that you love, take it into whatever program you use, paste it in there, and try to duplicate it while looking at it. And then after you do that a couple of times, delete it, and then try to replicate it without looking at it, and see if you can find a way to improve on it. And you're gonna notice the first time you do it, you're like, whoa, this does not look anything like this one. But it's the small things, right? The spacing here, the spacing there, and then the more you do it, eventually you're gonna develop an eye for it. So that's what I do, and that's what I still do. Like, I look at people that are doing amazing things, I take what they do, and I'm like, wow, I wish I did this, so I do it. You know,
Exactly.
so that just copy but don't, like, I keep reiterating that point. Do not publish someone else's work as your own. That is not what I'm trying to say in this one. When I say copy it for your own self-practice, but don't ever publish somebody else's work as your own. Take inspiration from a lot of sources. Go outside of your medium, take inspiration, do something creative, do something that's yours, but don't take someone else's work and be like, oh, I copied it, now it's my own, and put it on your portfolio. That is not good. Don't do that. But so I just want to make sure I reiterate that point, so people don't be like, wow, I said to copy other people's work, because that is not what I'm trying to say here.
Definitely.
So now we're gonna add a little bit of this is a slightly new section technically. So this is where we're gonna give a little bit more detail about what this photo is, give a little bit of a caption to the photo. So again, right now you just come across, you see this photo, you're like, okay. Right, so we want to make sure we add a little bit more to it. So we adding a caption, which is something I think we're introducing for the first time. But again, I'm still sticking with the same type that we've been using, still using it in the same way. I'm just kind of going in there, playing with type. And I know I go to these things fast, but I just want to be clear. Is the only reason I go to this fast is because I already sketched them out in my sketchbook. I know what I want things to look like, so I already can visualize what I want, and and I was prepared for this. Right, so usually it's a little bit. Part of the process that you guys are not seeing is a little bit more messier than this. Right, so it's more like I do this. I zoom out. I take a step back. I come back. I'm like, well, this image I probably spend I don't know, 20 minutes just be like, nah, yeah, no, but that's design. It really does comes down to that. You 10 pixel up, 10 pixel down, 10 pixel up until you find that sweet spot. And but take a break from your work and come back. So that usually helps me. All right, so just gonna oh no.
And going back into one of the, I know we're about to. Actually, let's take a look at this.
All right, so
it's looking good.
Yeah, this is what we have so far, and I think I did some slight prototype. So this is where we started. I did that offline. Yeah, I did that offline. Sorry, I forgot to mention I did. People were asking, so I was like, oh, it wasn't really I didn't do anything special, guys. I literally just grabbed the thing, drop it, put auto animate, and okay, cool. I actually did all the work. I just plug in some stuff. I'll go to the prototype view and show you guys, but it wasn't anything special. You guys could all do this. So this is where we started. This is what we have so far. And then you come in here, you hover this, and then you click on this, and then you go to this page. Again, you're getting that same bold introduction, because every single page within itself is a history page, right? So they all have that same feel to it. They're all gonna have that same kind of look and feel, with the timeline, with the date, and with what we already established in the previous pages with this little thing. I did add a back button, so this will take you back to the previous page. Just again, as you're sitting here, you go into a lot of things, you might want to go back, but of course you can always just click on the menu and go, and navigate that way. But yeah, so this is what we have so far. And again, this is a page where we're only using 2 typefaces, and no colors but the background color, and in a couple images here and there. So yeah, this obviously is way too far down, but this is just a placeholder for now. So let's go back into this. I will be, again, like I mentioned before, I will be going back and just tighten up things that needs to be tightened up, but I can do that, see, that would drive me crazy. I was like, right, it's the spacing isn't consistent. We shouldn't have that. Let's just keep it consistent. It's the little things like this that really makes a difference in the final work, because when things are consistent, like people will know. I mean, great design is transparent, so no one will ever be like, wow, look how consistent this spacing out. But when it's not consistent, people are like, something's off. Like, that's when you know, it's like, you're like, I don't know what it is, but something's off. So when you become like, when you do really well, no one's gonna notice. And that's the worst part about this. But when you do really bad, everyone's gonna be like, I don't know what it is, but it has a certain je ne sais quoi, or as the French says, I don't know. That was a terrible joke.
It made sense. I didn't know what you were saying. I was like, I bet that's what that means. And I was like, oh, it does.
Yeah, it does. I know. It's like, that was the joke. That was the entire joke. Like, but it did not land. I will work on it. All right. So, okay. Again, we have some more text. So we're going to go. They killed my boy. That comment will make more sense once you guys are able to read this copy. This is what I meant when I said they killed my boy. Like I was like, I meant the joke too early.
It's all good. I really like that. I didn't expect what you did in the previous section or the previous group of text, where you actually changed the layout. I literally thought you were going to copy, when you said you were going to copy and paste, I thought you were going to literally just be like, all right, and repeat grid and drag, and then be like, all right, we're on to page 3. So it's actually really interesting. And I bet it really is, for those in the chat, how you're like taking each section step by step, and even though it's repeated, you're literally making sure things are consistent, that you're making sure that there is some uniqueness in each section. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is important. Yeah, so a lot of this is going to repeat. And as the user's reading this, you want them to get a sense of continuity, right? You don't want it to like feels different, but at the same time, like, there's going to be section where you're like, okay, so we're going to introduce this one section. Maybe we should introduce an image. And what I do throughout, anytime I have like, okay, so we had a lot of text, I'll find something interesting in the copy, because again, you got to break the monotony of, this can get, I could have just typed this whole thing in just this body copy and just blah, 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 but no one's going to read this. It's going to get so boring, right? So that's why reading what you're doing is important. So you want to break that thing. So you read the copy, as you go to it, you're like, it's getting, a little bit boring. So let's find something interesting in this copy that we can just put a little bit of interest into it, right? So that's what I do, and and I highly recommend that you guys do the same thing. So again, but there will be some repetitiveness, because again, we don't want to bring a new layout in every section, because the users learn to expect certain things, and when you start breaking the expectation, then it becomes it's bad. Don't break users' expectation. If you click on a close button, you expect it to close. And if it doesn't close, it drives you crazy and you just leave the site, right? So, it is important to keep those in mind as you're designing, right? So the people have a certain expectation. You don't want to completely like venture off onto your own universe and do something different. So, but, one thing I gotta say, I do love that, like when I first started designing, back in my Adobe days, we didn't have this, the smart guy that'd be like, oh yeah, this spacing here is the same there. And you're like, oh, cool. I don't have to, I don't have to like, try to like bring the box. Although I sometimes do. And for those of you guys who were not there yesterday, the box I'm talking about is like sometimes like, when you just want that perfect alignment and you just can't get it, back in Photoshop's like, you just bring the box. So that's the box. You got a layer
for boxes and everything.
Yeah, that's the box I was talking about. So this one's gonna be a little different, right? So this is from 1763, 58. Yeah, I think that's where we at. So let me bring some copy. And this is a long one. Oh, this is a long one.
And going back to, I think we touched on it on a little question above, or a little bit earlier on, and you also said you're friends with a lot of developers. Can you, I think it was Akimi who asked this question as well. How is it, it was less of a question, but more so a statement on their end. They want to make sure, as one of two UX designers at their company, to make sure that they're not making things that are difficult for their developers. How would you go about suggesting, instead of assuming how to make things that aren't challenging for developers, what would you go to make sure that the people who are creating things are actually making things that are viable?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what we said in the beginning, right? You have to look at your design and be like, uh, is this useful? Is it, or rather yet, is this vital to a great user experience? If it is a yes, then you keep it. And if it is a no, then it's, because there's gonna be time you add things just to delight the user, which is, those are great. Like, when they don't expect something, like, it's like, wow, this was awesome. I did not expect that to happen. So it really comes down to like a negotiation with your developers. Like you have to negotiate with your developers, right? So sometimes you want a feature so bad, but the developer's like, man, this is gonna take 2 days. Like, is it that important? So, if it is not that important, then you kill it. But there's going to be time where you want something and it's going to take them 3 days, but it's vital to the piece. Then you can, again, because you do that give and take, then you can negotiate with them, be like, well, we did kill that one feature over there, but this one we really need it. So can we please just find a way to implement it? So that's what I do. Like, you just got to negotiate, man. Like it's like any other relationship. You got to give some, but you can't always have it your way. Something that takes us 2 minutes to do can take them hours, sometimes days to implement, right? So you just got to find that balance. You just got to find a great balance between, is this vital to the piece? Is it going to enhance the user experience? And then if it is a yes, then, just fight till you get it. Because at the end of the day, as designers, we're just there. Like, we're not designing for ourselves. We're designing for the people that's going to use the product. So if it is going to enhance their experience, then fight for it. Right? So be a soldier. But if it's not, then give it to your developer. Be like, okay, you know what? It's not that important. Let's just kill it. Save time here, because then later when I need you to do something, you're going to remember that I did something for you. So now I just told all my developer what I do. Well, here we go. Now they're going to know. So every time I give up now, they're going to be like, oh, okay, you're going to want something more difficult later, aren't you? Oh, man.
Yeah, but I think that's key. You really have to communicate with the people you're in partnership or in groups with, so you know what their capabilities are in development. Is it going to take 3 minutes, 3 days, or 3 hours?
Exactly.
And I think that's a really, really important skill, to be like not just creative on the design side of things, but having what you were talking about earlier, understanding from a developer standpoint, what is it that you're trying to make, and how long is that going to take your developer to do? You don't have to be able to, hey, you're going to need to put, this is the HTML, CSS, and Java you need for this. But understanding, all right, if I take this to Jimmy or Jill, this is how long it might take.
Exactly. Like, and you go, again, the first time they do it, they're always going to take longer, but the fifth time they do it, it's going to be 3 times faster. So sometimes, again, it's you got to decide, is it worth it? If it is worth it, then it's worth it for them to learn how to do it, right? Because the second time you come to them, they don't have to learn it again. They already know how to do it, so it's even faster. So those are like the decisions you constantly have to be making, like, as you go to, and those are, it's little life skills in general. I mean, I feel like it can apply to everything, not just your developers. It can apply to any other type of relationship. So I'm giving relationship advice. Please do not take this as relationship advice.
But it kind of is in a way, though. It kind of is in a way.
I don't know. I don't think Adobe wanted me to come here and give relationship advice. They're like, come do design and just focus on that. Like, do not get mangled into relationships. But I do it all. I really don't. All right. So we are about to, again, jump into it. Like, again, I just did a lot of copy and pasting. But as you guys, again, like I mentioned, as you can see, this is 3 sections that are just almost the same. So this is a time, again, to let's break it up, because we're going to jump into another section. This was a lot. Let's bring something a little bit different. Let's just break it up. And again, we're not introducing anything we didn't already introduce in other places. We're just going to take, again, it just so happened this is a quote. We're just going to take that same text style that we already established. We're just going to bring it in. And just to kind of like ease up that copy. You like, this is a lot of things for people to read. So let's just ease up the copy a bit, right? So, and I do it all the time. I say it all the time. View your work as the people's gonna view it, like, in real life. No one's gonna come in this page and ever see the website like this. So looking at it like that is a disadvantage to yourself. So look at it like how people actually going to take it in the browsers that they're gonna use it. Adobe make it super easy in XD. Command Enter to get into the preview and just preview the work. And while you're previewing it, is it easy to read? If you're reading this, like, can you go from one line to the other very easily? Is the size of the font, like, if you have bad vision, can you still read it? Is it legible? So start asking yourself the same questions, right, as you go to this, and just get in there and just constantly going up. Like, this feels good. Those little breaks, they come in handy. Maybe some more spacing here, some more spacing there. I don't know. We'll come back to that. Could this maybe be a little bit bigger? Because as I'm looking at this, I'm like, I don't think I can read that. It's like it's there, but it's a little small. Maybe we'd play a different typeface in this one because it's a little bit hard to read solid display in a smaller type because it's a display font. So maybe this needs to be Founder Grotesque, maybe like a medium or a bold. So I'm going to come back to this one and play with it. But I would have known that unless I did a preview. So the spacing here, is this consistent? Like, across, right now, because this is the first time where we have like a shorter text with this one, it feels a little tight. So we want to go in there and just make those changes, but I'm going to leave those for the end, but I want to get like a couple more copy in here. Again, feel free to guys, if you guys like, okay, we've seen enough, let's do another page. Happy to do that. We can stop here or I can continue. It is 100% up to the people. So, but for now, I'm gonna need more space. I did go ahead and make this a component. And the reason why is because your footer and header is repeated on every page. So anything that's gonna be repeated on a lot of places, just make them components, because if you change your mind again, you don't wanna have to go back to 50 pages and replace everything. I mean, that's the advantage with XD and those type of programs, and that's why, like, I think somebody yesterday asked why we don't use Illustrator. Well, you can't do component in Illustrator, as far as I know. So you make one change in here and have to update it across 50 different pages. Well, that gets a little time consuming, So, but with XD, super easy. Like, I can just go in there, change the text and the main component and everything get updated. So yay, components. Okay, now we're gonna move on to 1771. Okay, so this is another section where we're probably gonna introduce an image, and we're gonna do something a little bit different with this again.
We actually have some people in the chat very interested in some mobile views and actually really how you think about, starting to think about from what we're doing here is a desktop. And you already went over how you think about it, but there is a question just from a basic level. Will we be seeing any mobile things today? You mentioned a little bit, we might do things today. We really have about 30-ish minutes. So I'm gonna let you, before we get into our artist spotlight, so I'm gonna let you answer that just so we can get those answers to the chat. I
mean, again, we could just take this page and do the mobile version of that page, or I can show you another page of a desktop version. It's up to the people. It all depends on what you guys want to see. I'm here to show you guys my process and how I think. I already know in my head what I want the mobile version to look like, what I want the types, how I want the types to treat, like how I'm gonna treat the type and all those things. So yeah, I can jump into the mobile and actually show you guys the homepage or any of those pages on mobile, or we can do another page which is very different from those two pages, because this one's gonna be about the people. So I have what I consider to be some interesting ideas on how I want to do that. And, I feel like, we could really get into that conversation on that desktop version of the people page, because I have like a lot of thoughts in my head on this one. And, but I'm also happy to do mobile. So, yeah, so, it's you guys.
All right, well, let's do this. Let's keep doing what we're doing. But guys, chat, Jaslin is going to continue to do what he's doing, but if you want to have Jaslin continue doing what he's doing, put 1 in the chat. If you guys want to see mobile, put 2 in the chat. So we're going to keep going, but we will change how we're doing things. If you want to kind of see the first page reimagined into mobile. So 1, to continue on the train that we're basically on, and 2, if you would like to see the first page in mobile, or basically just talk about how he might, and I think we already covered that question where it was just, you know, how he thinks about translating from desktop to mobile and vice versa. So I'll leave it up to you guys in the chat. Jason, let's keep chugging along with our 30 minutes here. I think we're on a good track.
Awesome. Again, there's still a lot of cleaning up to do. So I just kind of like, put that out there again. Again, this is where the grade come handy. So for this one, right, I'm gonna kind of explain what's gonna happen in here. So I'm gonna, I have this box, just gonna take it here, and over here we're gonna have like, maybe like a header, or just body copy explaining what this is. Right. So, and the advantage with having the grade is, again, like it removes some of that guessing work for me. Like, where do this line up? Like, how much spacing do I have? Because my grade is, and I don't think we went over it today, and I kind of want to do that real quick, like how I set up the grade. And so I'm using a 12 column grid because this is a very text heavy thing. And the reason I like 12 is again, just multiply by 2, super easy. But my gutter width is about 40 and my column width is 60. So meaning between this right here, like the number is always gonna be the same. It's always gonna be 40. So the spacing between like here, it's always 40. So when I need to give some gaps, like I just stay within that grade and I know that my spacing. Again, don't use the grade like religiously, fall outside of the grade. And as I mentioned above, like, this element happened to fall outside of the grade because I wanted them to fall outside of the grade. So there's times like, you go off the grade. Do not stick to it and don't let it restrict you, but use it as a guideline. And that's literally all it is. It's just a guide, but sometimes, things are gonna fall out. But for this type of pages, because it's so copy heavy, like it's easy to stay within the grade because it's, you want these things to be consistent. So that's why I'm like sticking to the grade, like it's, I can't think of anything, but like if I'm sticking to the grid.
Well, let's take that. We're sticking to the grid. It actually looks like mobile won. A lot of people, the majority picked number 2. So how about we pause where we are on this page and jump back and take page number 1? Because I think with 30 minutes, it would be very interesting just to see how we could take something that's already done, no thinking needed, but how you would translate page 1 into a mobile version. I think we did a really good job with page number 2 with our basically magazine not magazine, but a newspaper, so to speak, newspaper museum website. But I think the people have spoken. They would really and are interested.
Have spoken.
They have spoken. They would love to see, and I also would love to see, because this is actually something that's pretty tricky, taking large type that we have and how that would translate to mobile. So I really think that would be a great sort of thing to have and finish out here. Even with our
I'm just gonna throw in this footer in this real quick. I might have to do some resizing in this footer. Obviously I don't want to take too much time doing this, so I just kind of want to show you guys what this could look like. Oh no, not that. Oh, okay, so that's not. And obviously we wouldn't need this. Oh, so it's not so much a footer as more like the next, a way of navigating to the next page. So I'm not gonna spend too much time in doing this, but so all I'm doing in here is like, if you in this page, again, remember we have a timeline, which numbers, so there would be no reason to have the user to have to go back to this page. So they would not, a couple of things I would do, the next event and the previous event, I probably would put something over here somewhere so you can go back to the previous page, which you can on the top, maybe this become fixed. So there's a lot of still some good thinking in here that I would need to do. But as you said, the people have spoken, they want to see mobile, so mobile we shall do. So let's jump into mobile. All right.
And by the way, for those of you guys who have hit number 2, or since you have spoken, if you guys haven't hit the like button on this video yet, do so, because we're about to get into some more fire with Jaslin. All right, back to you.
I don't want to disappoint you guys, but I'm gonna be I'm gonna be honest with you. I did not plan to do mobile, but I already know what it's supposed to look like. And to be honest, a lot of this, again, it's not going, that's the beautiful thing with type. A lot of this is gonna stay exactly as I have it right now. It's just gonna get smaller. I'm gonna just adjust type and then just split to them. But let's do it. Let's go ahead and create a new artboard. As soon as I figure out where my artboard tool is, here it is. Oh, wait, no. Oh, I love this. They already give me all the things that I need. So which mobile size do we do? Again, this is where like some research would have gone into it, decide, okay, which is like, you know, the most popular blah, blah, blah for this specific audience based on what's been used. But for this, we're just gonna use iPhone because, well, I don't know, the size is already there. So let's do it. I also use grids on mobile, but it's a little different because obviously, well, it's already set up, so that's neat. So yeah, Adobe already kind of did some of the work for me. Like they just did the default grid for mobile setup. It's a 4-pixel grid as opposed to 12 because honestly, it's a smaller screen. You do not need 12. 12 would be overkill. And Adobe knows that, so they already did the setup for me. I just really like my pink when I use grids, so I'm just gonna stay with it. Just personal preference. Okay, let's do this. I'm just gonna copy this just slowly so I can see what I'm doing. And then we're gonna start with the same way we would have, you know, anything else. I'm gonna start with the nav. Again, I'm not trying to do everything from scratch. I'm just gonna be copying from one place and paste it into the other as needed.
That's the best way to do it.
When possible, you know, just do as little work as possible. So I'm gonna have my grade on. So something I also love to do, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it in here. Like when I'm designing for mobile, because you guys won't be able to see my screen, I'll plug my phone into the computer, and Adobe let you actually get a preview of what you're doing on your phone. Just like I like to do the Command Enter, I do the exact same thing on mobile. So I plug it in so I can see exactly what things are looking like. So that really helps me like narrow down like into the sizing and stuff. But unfortunately, because you guys won't be able to see my screen, so it just won't make any sense for me to do that. So, okay, for whatever reason, this group does not want to paste. I'll just do it from scratch. So going against everything I just said. Oh, I think it did paste.
Yeah, it looked on our end. It looked like
it was just,
look at it.
It was just somehow hiding behind the grid, which is
it was shy.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's weird that it's like, you know, elements are falling behind the grid, which is I think. All right, well, we'll just have to work with it. Let's change this to menu. Get some spacing here. I think I'm just kind of sticking.
We might have the grids on like full 100% opacity. That's probably what happened.
That might be it. Look at you, genius.
See, we out here inspecting. We're not just out here cute.
I know, right? We're like
for second pair of eyes.
First of all, you got it wrong. Calling me out live, man. Man, I thought we were boys, man. Nah, I'm joking. Yeah, you're right. It is exactly what's happening, which we can easily fix that by changing this and then just bring the opacity down. Here it is.
Boom. Teamwork.
Make the dream work. Okay, so a couple things we have to think about before we even go too deep into this, right? So And one thing I didn't bring up, which I'm gonna bring it up yesterday. So there are a couple cheat sheet you guys can use when it comes to scaling your type. There's a couple website that actually gives you like, I think one of them is Type Scale, literally type dash scale. And when you go in there, you can pick like a ratio of how you want your type to scales, and they give you like, they do an amazing job with it. So they tell you like, okay, if your header is gonna be 150 pixels, then the H2 and H3, and they really help scale the type down. Highly recommend taking a look at it if you have a chance. But if you don't, then we're gonna do a couple things to keep in mind when you're designing for mobile. Font size matters a lot, and so try not to do anything below 12, even though it looks better at times. I mean, some people will go as far as say, I think iOS recommend 14, but again, use your judgment. If it depending, because not every typeface are created equal. Some typeface render bigger, 12. Some render really small. So there's a lot of that. That's all this is gonna be. So we're just gonna copy things in here, and we're gonna scale down. Again, we have this grade to go on off, so we're gonna actually take advantage of it and use it. So that's what I was saying, like, a lot of this is the beauty of using the grid, and this is the beauty of using like something like this where we're using a lot of typography, because all we're gonna be doing is scale it down, and then just paying attention to the sizing, making sure like, it's if it feels good and it looks good, then it's good. So I'm gonna be a little bit more stickler with sticking with the grid in this one, just because it's gonna help me. Did not plan to do this, so we're doing this live. This is awesome. I really wanted to show you guys that inner page, but the people have spoken. What am I gonna do? I'm just saying, I really did. I wanted to show that inner page. I was so proud of it. I was like, oh man, they're gonna love this. Woo.
I think regardless, they're still loving this. There was a lot of questions on how do you make such a, because I think that's a great question. How do you take words that are so big for somebody who is not necessarily, or someone who is new to responsive design, or even specifically working with type? How do you work it to still look good on a phone or any other thing that doesn't have a large screen real estate?
Again, you see the advantage that we have now than people didn't have, like, I don't know, when they were designing like 100 years ago. I'm going really far. Like, we don't have to make our own typeface. We don't have to rely on anything that's like outrageous. So it's really just a matter of taking the time to find a typeface that looks great. So, it's like, this looks great. And then you just test it out. You test it on smaller screen, you test it on bigger screen, and you get a feel for what it's going to look like. So a lot of it is, I'm not doing anything special. I'm just resizing things. The typeface is doing all the work. So really, we should be giving credit to whoever created this thing. So that's really what it is. It's like you find the right typeface, and that's when you put the time, right? Just spend some time just really just taking your time and just finding the right font. Like, if you do, a lot of this is, look, I literally taking what I did on desktop, I'm resizing on mobile, but the typeface just looks amazing. Like, all I've done so far is just resize, but we're getting that same feel that we did on desktop. We didn't change anything. Everything is still legible, and we're just creating this. So that's why I was saying, like, I hope you guys are not disappointed, because I'm not gonna be doing anything crazy. Like, I'm literally resizing, and I'm paying attention to the size, and the grade is gonna come handy in this one, right? So I'm gonna go back in certain places and just resize things a little bit more, but I'm gonna go through this really fast. So we can get a little bit more on this homepage done. But all I'm going to be doing is taking what's already there and just resize. So, and this is where, like I was mentioning, if you have the ability to plug in your phone, take a look at it, because you're never gonna get a better view than the one on your phone. Looks great, but it feels a little tight in comparison to the desktop version. So again, this is where you just, like, just come in there. Obviously the spacing can't be as big, but another thing to keep in mind, though, the advantage with mobile, people scroll. They actually expect to scroll. Like, they go on mobile, if your page don't scroll, it looks like it's broken, right? So people is going to scroll. So you have real estate to play with. So just take advantage of that. Take advantage of that, what's been established for you, that, the user's conditions are, they expect it to scroll on mobile. So with that being said, so, just take advantage of that and use white space. So again, yesterday we spent like a good amount of time in like, just finding that balance, but I'm just gonna go visually and just kind of like look at things and make things happen. Cause we only have like less than 30 minutes now, if I'm remembering correctly. So I'm just gonna leave my preview up because it's mobile. I can see it at all time. So this is great. Again, we're gonna use a lot of this grid. We're gonna keep everything inside of the grid because again, for this reason, because we're doing on mobile, we want to make sure like, this little gap, because remember the browser takes some of that space because people are not going to see it without a browser. So keep those things in mind. Even the spacing on top, like keep in mind, like, if you have it, think about those things, like, the browser, the bottom thing, whatever it's called, help me out, the little, you guys know the name. like, like, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So think about those things as you're designing, like make sure like, you're taking those into consideration because, they makes a difference, right? So this is what we're doing. All I'm doing, again, like I said, I'm not going to be doing, oh, look, we have the fold. This is where the fold is, right? So, hey, now we know where the fold is. Well, let's have some more space. As you guys probably know by now, I like white space because it really does make a difference. But don't do it for the sake of doing it. Do it because it looks great and it feels great. So again, like, take a look at the spacing that you did on desktop because, you want to just bring those same, like it's not going to be the same number, but just look and judge things optically. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters is what it looks like. Okay, so this is what we have so far. And we're going to move on. Like I said, I'm not changing anything. I'm not gonna go super crazy in this. So the same rule that we established here, like you said, we use 3 grids here. Obviously this is gonna be a little bit bigger. So we're just gonna go down and then we're gonna establish our HQ. So it's at 72, which is still pretty big. It doesn't have to be tiny. So let's do this. I'm gonna throw that in here. This feels good. Now we're gonna shrink this. I love this thing. I can just grab and shrink things. 20, maybe we wanna go a little bit bigger. And a lot of this, like, I'm just going through this fast. I would definitely go back and be like, okay, let's really think about some of this decision. So, but, I just wanna make sure like, we get a little bit more in. So let's go down. Let's keep an eye on how things are looking, like, as our user's gonna use it. Spacings. Let's see if I can do this entire mobile thing in less than 20 minutes.
You got it, man. And also, we might have, depending on how much we have in the artist spotlight, we might have a little bit more time to pop back over here. So no sweat, breathe. Virtually wipe the sweat off your brow. And let's just keep working, man. We're making good time. We're a-okay. We have about 12-ish, 11 plus-ish minutes. We got time, man.
And something you guys might remember me mentioning yesterday is that as you're designing the desktop or whichever one you start with, you have to start thinking of how these things can translate to mobile, right? So a lot of what I'm doing is because I was already thinking how I'm going to translate this mobile, but it's also like, because I'm using just typeface, it's an advantage. All I have to do is just shrink the sizes. Like, so I don't even have to change my layout. Like the layout's still going to look like, good for the most part. Well, not for the most part. I think it looks good. But pay attention again. This is where it's going to come handy. Like, pay attention to your, line heights. And because it makes a difference. Right now, that's not a lot of text I want to spend reading, so we want to make sure, like, we get in there, like, this feels better, and then so obviously, like, we could do this, that would look terrible, but we also don't want to do that because that's not easy to read. So you just got to look at it, like, depending on the size of the content, we're going to have to break that rule that I mentioned about, sticking with the grade. Like, that's why I say, like, don't take to the grade as a religion, because it's not. Avoid these, like, those drive me crazy personally. So please avoid them as much as you can. And when you start paying a lot of attention to type and great design, you're gonna notice they don't have a lot of those things. And at times you're gonna have to go back into the, like, your copy and just, like, play around and trying to avoid, like, any, like, obviously, like, you don't want widows and orphans, so just play around with this. Even though, like, you might be like, well, at the end, when the developer, they might not even be able to do all that. So why do that? Because when you put it in your portfolio, you're not going to put the version that the developers do. You put what you wanted it to be. So that's something, like, to keep in mind too. Sometimes, like, when you're designing something and you have a version that you love, but the client wants a different thing, like, you don't have to put the version that you did for the client on your portfolio. Do what it could have been if the client didn't change everything, because, we all know how that happens. The client, like, this looks great, but then you're like, and you start sweating. Once you hit that but, you start sweating. You're like, oh man, it's gonna happen. This is it. This is where it goes to hell. This is where everything goes boom. At least that's how I think, right? So okay, so
it's like that one meme. Never mind. Let's not even go in that direction.
Oh no,
we got
you cannot say
9
that.
minutes. I want us to streamline us and get into this and have everybody get as much as we can in these next 9 minutes before we hop into the artist spotlight. But I was about to say, when you're sweating, there's a meme out there when it's just, I think it's one of the comedians, forget. But there's like a sweating meme that I love. Yeah.
yeah. As soon as you saw, I'm like, yeah, that's the one.
Mind.
Yeah, that's Jordan. I think it's Jordan Peele, where he's like sweating, I love that meme. But yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like, you're talking to your client, they're like, yeah, man, everything looks great. Wow, like, man, like, this is amazing. But, we just want to change that one thing. Can you add my dog here, because I really love my dog? And you're like, but sir, this is a restaurant website.
Yeah.
Like, this is not an actual example of what happens to me. Oh no. Uh-oh, I made a boo-boo. Sorry, I gotta go back here.
So it seems the biggest rule of thumb, because I think this is collectively those of you guys who wanted to really, who asked for the mobile side of things, and Jaslin has mentioned this multiple times. He's literally just taking what he did for desktop, bringing it into mobile, and finagling with the new guides in mobile and seeing where they fit using his eye.
Exactly, because at the end, like, I keep saying it, we are designers, and it's all about, just judge thing, optically. Well, this one's gonna get a little tricky, so I'm just gonna do it from scratch. So
yeah, and I think the caveat to that one too is you want to use your eye, but you want to use your trained eye. That's exactly why you said, if you guys are new here, yesterday we were drilling in, you have to perceive and then practice. You have to look at individuals who are the top of the line designers who you would like and are inspired by, and to practice what it is that they're doing, so you have a trained eye to do exactly what Jaslin is doing here.
Yeah, and that is important to mention, right? So the reason that, I can kind of like get in here and already kind of know what it's gonna look like is because, again, with practice, I've definitely practiced a lot, and I'm always looking for a way to improve myself. And I do this, like, any chance that I get, I do it. So something we're not gonna have in here, which is gonna be interesting, right? So remember the desktop. So this is where, like, a little bit of stopping and thinking comes into play, right? So remember in desktop, we had it in hover mode, and we had like this little time on top, like, that kind of like give you a little bit extra of what that's going to look like. So now we're in an interesting place, right? So there's a couple ways we can handle this. And I just want to get this done. And then, so that is not how you spell French. Oh, but that's how you, but that is how you pronounce it. French. If you were saying this in French, this is how you would pronounce it. So actually, that's not true. Please I was, as this was a joke. It is not how you pronounce it in French. Man, how we doing, Brendan?
We're doing good. We have about 6-ish minutes. We're still good on time. And I believe we might have still a good amount of time to come back. But how's the chat feeling? Is this exactly the type of stuff that you are wanting to be learning as we switch over to mobile here? What are your thoughts? We do have, I see we have a few other, let me see. I'll check in the chat. I think there were a couple questions. We'll breeze through those or keep them in mind towards the end of our segment today. But definitely, if you guys have any questions relating to, I think there actually was one, but I think we might have answered it. And relating to how do you make sure the relationships between elements stay the same between desktop and mobile? And there was already an answer in the chat. It depends based on how good your developer is and the responsivity that they're able to really do. Would you agree?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Work with great developers, and you'll never have to worry about that. But no. All jokes aside, though, but like you do have to find a balance, right? So again, this is all about negotiation. And one thing I would recommend, like, so for example, like in this, right, we came to like this section where, so when you're doing this, which I didn't do, but we should have done, when you have a section like this on mobile, what I would recommend you do, look at the menu and pick whichever one is the longest one in there and establish the style for that one first. Because you don't want things to be, you don't want everything in it to completely be one go. And if it's so long that it's gonna have to go in 2 line, still, do that one first. And then once you establish the look and feel, the sizing, and if it's like, okay, this is only way it's gonna work if it goes into line, then do that first. And once you do that, then you can go ahead and put the smaller text, because the small one will fit, but this one is a little bit long. So that's the one, like, you should always play with that one first. But with that said, it is also very important to make sure that the size that you use is big enough that they can click on it with the thumb and not actually accidentally click on the bottom one. So a lot of things to keep in mind while you're doing something like this. You want to make sure you do the longest one first. And if it's too long where it's not going to work, then break it into 2 lines if you have to. But again, you can do that. You're a designer. You just have to judge things and see when it looks good. I should have used repeat grid in this, and I regret not doing so because I was trying to speed up. So now I'm going to have to do this manually. Yeah, see, like 30 is just not going to work. 30 feels too close. I'm gonna accidentally click it. So now this is where like it's like 20, 30, 35. I don't know. Well, I don't have a magic number for it. I'm just gonna go with 35 for now because, well, it's 35. It feels good. And then let's go to this. So I'm just gonna bring everything in, clean this up a bit, and then I'll probably go back and do a couple more things, right? So when it comes to desktop, when it comes to mobile, the one thing I would say, like, it's more about removing things you don't need. Don't try to add things like, that's just there for, it's like, again, think of the user experience. Can they still go through this without those extra little things that I had on desktop? Because in desktop, you have the room to play with things, which we did over here. So I added the time on hover mode. Again, it's a nice little, accent for, say, right? You just add a little bit of flavor to the desktop version. But on mobile, we don't have hover. We don't have the luxury of having hover. So yes, could we go ahead and just add the date in here? We could. How important is that for the user that's navigating this, right? So you're gonna have to start making those, you're gonna have to negotiating with yourself also, because we can add it, it will just start crowding the place up a little bit. So you're gonna have to start negotiating with yourself. Is this vital to the user experience? If it's not, can they still navigate to this navigation without knowing, the exact date? Yes, they could. So for that purpose, maybe we'll just opt it out. But your client might come back and be like, no, this is absolutely important. Then you'll have to find a way to make it look good and make it work. So, and I can also do that. If you guys want me to kind of like add the dates and find a way to make this looks good, then we can do that. But for now, I'm just kind of like go to this so we can get further down, but let's review what we have so far. Oh, yeah, that spacing is not good. All right, so I'm just gonna come in here and I can tell just by like while I was scrolling, I was like, yeah, that looked tight. So let's just
And while we're doing that quick review, we have about a minute. So this is perfect timing.
That's what I do, man. I mean, come on, No, I'm joking. But yeah, let's go through this real quick. So we have the desktop. This is what we have for the mobile. I did not change the layout. I didn't introduce anything that wasn't already there. But I mean, if you ask me, I would say that's a pretty good transition from desktop to mobile. Like, it still feels like the same site. It still has that same vibe to it. But this is 100% doable and mobile. We didn't do anything crazy. So, yeah, this is what we have so far. And if we have time, we'll come back to it and do this portion, which should be pretty fun.
For sure. All right, guys, we are about to move on. First, by the way, do not forget to leave your comments or questions about anything else, because right now we're about to go into our artist spotlight very quickly. And today we have Richard Liu. He's an amazing product designer from New York City. Woo woo! So I believe he's also in chat. So with that said, let's take a peek. All right, we have about, like, let me count. The math, I didn't go to school for that, but I see 9 projects here. Let's see, which one should we jump into? I'm almost very tempted to jump into some glass morphism here, but we're gonna just trust the left. We're gonna go from left to right. So very quickly, we have a patient-to-patient app concept. Love to get to understand what we're about to hop into before we get into this. Got patient-to-patient app concept. We get an overview of the challenge, the project goals, create an app that simplifies a patient's process of searching for and scheduling appointments with local doctors. Awesome. So let's just do a quick scroll through. I love that they have the components, all the elements that they've really thought through in terms of putting in to their project. There we go. That's what I was looking for. I was like, where are the design pieces? I think it's really amazing that it's really important to have somebody come into your projects and see what exactly they're about to get into. So right here, we're looking at the sign up and search for a doctor. Jaslin, how are you feeling about all this?
No, this is great. And it's like, I had that exact same feedback as you. Like, it is important to have project goals and all those things, but if you're a designer, you also want to make sure you give like a preview of what to expect. So having like a little bit of design early on would have been great, but no, this is looking amazing. I love it. This is great. Good job, whoever did it. I'm trying to look for the name. I can't find it.
Richard Liu. Good job, my man.
Good job, Richard.
Yes. And I also like that we have at the end, let's see, we got to get full screen here. Also, it's awesome. He has the feedback, the showcase of the design, and then they end up with an animation. I think that's like the trifecta. What's the project? What does it look like? How does it work? So excellent job. 3 claps. Good job.
I did 4.
Was that 3 claps? Was that 4? All right, he one up me. So we've gone from 3 to 4 claps. Good job, Richard.
Yeah,
all right, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this real quick. The music player. So again, this is what I'm talking about. Very nice showcase. You got 2 screens. Very obvious it's a music player. Very well showcased. Getting into some of your design considerations. And again, closing it out with some animation. Let's see.
Well done.
I always love seeing projects that don't just have visuals, but actually like, hey, by the way, I thought through this. This is how it works. Because things can look pretty, but just like we were talking about earlier in the stream, it's very important to communicate how the thing is, regardless of how visually able you are, to showcase to your developer, to whoever you're trying to sell your ability to. They need to see the entirety of what it is that you're making. All right, let's see. Which one should we choose next, Jaslin? I'm gonna let you pick the third and final.
Oh wow, I don't know. I don't know, that green one, like it's just calling out to me. Like just something about those colors. It's like, oh yeah, I want to see that. So do that one.
This is my next one. Ooh, groceries. All right, your order was placed. I'm assuming this is grocery related. So community deliveries, especially in our current situation with our new normal.
Love it.
Again, love that they're showcasing the design before they get into really what this is. This was actually part of one of our XD Daily Creative Challenge, so you give definitely 4 claps on that one. I'm gonna let Jaslin get on that. There we go.
There it is.
I love that they have a link to the prototype. That again is also something that is highly important in regards to being able to not just show through the video or animation that one has, but also to allow somebody to go through your prototype as well.
Absolutely.
But it's looking really clean. Have their design considerations. I even think this is a little bit into their wireframe stage, and this is what I was waiting for, ladies and gentlemen. Let me correct my glasses really quick so we can click on this. As Jaslin does the little wiggle of his glasses. We got the sliders in there, very nice photography. We've added the apple for we are healthy, and I'm not sure about the broccoli choice. All right, I'm back with you on the soup. I'm back with you on the soup. Nice interactions, place order, and they are on the way. So guys, if Richard is in the chat, definitely, and you would like to see more from him, definitely click on his profile. If Miss Voodoo Val has links to his portfolio, definitely give him a quick follow. Check out some of this work he's got. Whatever 9 minus 3 is, don't judge me on my math. That's 6. Okay. There's 6 more things that we didn't check out today, but there's a lot. So there's time to go in, but we're going to spend the rest of our, there's another math problem. All right. We are at 4:35 EST. We're going to keep going with Jaslin and this project until the end of the stream today. But yeah, guys, let us know if you have any questions regarding anything. Portfolio, Jaslin's work, really I think a lot of the questions we've had today are in regards to development. So we're going to try to save some time towards the end to get to your questions, but back to Jaslin.
Awesome. Yeah, that was some great work. And good job, whoever created, I forgot his name.
Richard Lou.
Richard
it's
Lewis.
So good. It just
I was focusing more on the work. Yeah, I was focusing more on the work. So he definitely had some amazing work. So keep going, man. They look great. So yeah, we almost I'm like flying to this. But of course, I haven't spent a lot of time going back in between things. Maybe I will even have time to do that one page I wanted to do to begin with. So, let's see.
Yeah, this is the one that I wanted to see, the 200,000.
I
think it's always...
It's going to be the same. Sorry to disappoint.
Well, I would like to see the sameness happen. I would like to see this magic.
Well, let's do it. Again, just keeping things consistent. Again, like I said before, the size we use there is good. So let's keep it there. But I'm thinking about going back and potentially make this a little bit bigger. 12 is the minimum it should be, but 14 is better. So it's like little things like this. Yes, 12 looks better, but 14 is more legible. So let's go for legibility as opposed to aesthetic. Aesthetic is important, but we also want to make sure it's functional, which is what we were just talking about. So we have the room, so why not do it? Actually, I'm just gonna option you this. Okay, I keep breaking things.
It's okay. We break things, hopefully fixing them, and then move forward.
Okay, so you can't. Oh, that looks terrible in uppercase. So yeah, we're just gonna leave that. It's still technically grammatically correct. You've seen it both ways. It's just the tremor looks terrible in uppercase with this font, so we're not gonna do it. It's not needed anyway. Developers just do extra work. So we're gonna go back to 14 in here. Again, usually, this probably wouldn't happen as fast and as smooth as it's happening. But the advantage is because we just have typeface and the only thing I have to manipulate is typeface, the layout is pretty simple. So like, that's why simplicity is awesome too. So when you keep something simple, like it's so much easier to just adapt to any screen. We can make this fit in a Nokia. Well, please don't challenge me in that.
I was like, you brought that upon yourself.
Yeah, I did. But we could, like it would just be a matter of changing the font size. And actually, I think that would be a great challenge. And I'm gonna do it. Not in this stream, but I'm actually gonna find out the size of like the smallest Nokia screen and see if I could make this fit. So I'll have it in my portfolio or maybe on like a blog page when it's up. So, which by the way, I'm working on a new portfolio right now. So keep an eye out in the next few months. Gonna be coming out with some more stuff, and maybe this project might end up being in there when I'm all done with it. So we'll see. I don't know.
We gotta peep it.
Yeah, like like I'm putting a lot of love into this. So I was like, I'm missing something. What is that? I'm missing my preview because I don't have my phone with me. So I like to have the preview in here because it really helps with the like how I paste things, like the distance. Obviously, I'm gonna come back and tweak things a little bit. And like I said, sorry to disappoint, but the 200,000 is still 200,000. So just really getting in there and maybe just give it a little bit more breathing room. But in reality, that's what we're doing.
But I think that's important because I think most people, especially me, I'd be like, copy paste, why isn't it working? And resize it. But there's the nuances of this probably needs more breathing room. This is how to think about the option of understanding that one should probably take a look at the spacing again once it's pasted or brought into mobile, or if it's starting in mobile and to desktop. There's still things that need to be finagled. It's just not copy paste one and done, we're good.
No, yeah, there's more to it than just copy and pasting, right? Yeah. So I'm doing this fast, but really the part that's gonna make all the difference is the little details that once we're done pasting all the element, and you can do it too. You can put everything in, get a sense for what the layout's gonna look like, work on the layout, just have everything in, or you could do it where you just focus on per section. You just do one section, you get it done just right, and then you move on to the next section, and then you get it done just right. But for this one, I'm just putting everything that needs to be in there. I'm putting the right sizing on everything. And then I'm like, okay, now let's see where's there's room for improvement. And there will always be room for improvement. Today might be good enough. Tomorrow I look at it, I'm like, wow, this could be much better. But that's design. And, so another thing I said often, I'm like, if you look at a work that you did 3 months ago and you're still as proud of it as you were like when you first did it, that means that you have not learned anything new in 3 months, right? Because if you look at a work that you did 3 months ago and you've learned a lot of new things, you would be like, wow, there's room for improvement in this. You can still be proud of your work, but you always find room for improvement, right? So the more you learn, the more you're gonna be like, wow, okay, this needs to be improved. So, and that's why it's impossible, at least for me to design my portfolio, because I start designing it. I'm like, because I can't commit to it full time. So I'll start designing it a month in and I'm like, I gotta take a break and I come back. I'm like, oh, this is bad. like what was I thinking? Or worse, and I'm sure that happens to all of us. Like you start designing, you're going with one concept, you feel really good about it, and then one of your friend or somebody that you follow just released their portfolio, and you're like, oh.
You look back and you're
like, yeah, this is trash. So we have to start over now. But it's. I mean, I have a competitive nature, so that also probably doesn't help. Like I'm always looking to be better, and I'm always looking to challenge myself to be better. I'm always looking at people that I feel like that are better than me. And I want to be on their level. And then once I get there, if I ever get there, then I'm like, okay, who's next? Like I want to be you. What have you been doing that I can learn from? So I'm always hunger for more, right? And for those of you that are a little bit older, that's G-Unit album. You might not get that, hunger for more, but no. But for real though, I am constantly in the lookout for people that are doing things that are amazing, people that I think that are better than me, and and I just want to learn from them. And
Yeah.
and you don't have to know them to learn from them. You just follow them, see the work that they put out there, and be like, wow, this is an amazing piece. Why did he do that? And you just start trying to get into their mind and try to understand, like, okay, why would you do that? Like, if giving the option, why didn't you do this instead? So that's my view on these things, and that's how I keep myself like on check and constantly like, I gotta get better. I gotta get better. Which can be unhealthy. I'm gonna be honest with you on that. Because there's gonna be times like, you just gotta make sure like, you take a moment back and be proud of yourself. Give yourself some compliment. Be
Yeah.
like, you know what? I set out to learn this thing. I've learned it. I think I'm really good at it. I'm very proud that I did that. So you have to give yourself like, it's just little mental checks. They're very important. It's good to be competitive, but it's also good to like, be proud of yourself. Be proud of the things that you've accomplished. Be proud of the things that you've done. Put your work out there and don't be shy. So be competitive, but also, give yourself some credit because you're doing a lot of work. You're putting yourself out there. You're learning, and so make sure you guys do that too. So, because I do, I give myself compliment when I learn something new. I'm like, yeah, man, we did it. We set ourselves out to learn this new software, or to learn to do this one thing with type, or to learn this one new thing, or to do this one website, and we did it. And now, I say we, like I'm like talking to myself in the third person, but and now we're proud of ourselves. And you're like, whoa, is he going crazy? But it's good to have that. Like, you remember, you do something great, you're proud of it, it's okay to be proud of yourself. So don't let anyone tell you that you shouldn't. So if you learn anything, take that, be proud of yourself. So, right, so this one gonna have to go in 2 lines, right? It's like, as much as I don't want to, but I'm gonna have to do it in 2 lines because I don't want to go down to 12 because I feel like 12 is too small. But I also want to make sure that, people can read this. So what I will not do that. Again, like talk about orphans, right? So, you have this just one little thing hanging by itself, like, don't do it. Just bring the entire portion of this down. It still works. It's still part of the same quote, and it's easier to read. Instead of having an orphan, it's better to just do that. People might disagree with me in this one, but this is just my personal point of view on this. So, and now we have option to maybe even go a little bit bigger now, since we have the room. All right, so, all right, let's look at what we've done. We did a mobile, and that was fast. Okay, that's what we have so far. And great tune, by the way. I'm loving it. The music is really good. Some of the spacing here feels off, like too much space, which is a thing. It can happen. You can have too much space. It's all about feeling, right? So I feel like between this space here feels good, but this feels off, right? It feels like it's on a whole new, something's off about it, right? So I don't want to leave it off, so I'm just gonna kind of like bring it in a bit. Maybe we'll go to 70, 60. Now it feels too tight. Like, so that's just, again, I would probably do this for like a little bit longer, just like back and forward, until it feels right. And maybe it's not even this spacing that's off. Maybe it's this spacing that's off. And or maybe it's also this. So let's go back and fix the small things, right? So we have the bulk of the mobile version down. I want to go back and kind of like fix the small things. So let's bring the square.
Lining it up.
You gotta keep things consistent, right? And there's no easier way to do this. Like, I'm just gonna bring this square, and there's probably easier way to do it, but this is just my way of doing it. It's not necessarily right. It's just my way. So if you can do it just by looking at it, go for it. I can't. And those gonna make, like, these little changes, this little consistency, these little nitpick things, they are the difference between great design and good design, right? So I think Crazy says, everything should align to something. Nothing should ever be free flowing. So, and that's something that stuck with me. Like, I was like, oh, I like that. And everything should have a purpose and should never be free flowing. So So just having like a little bit of consistency and like, how things line up like this makes a difference. And with text, because there's always like a little bit of hanging in there in the bounding box. So I like to use a box. It's easier. All right, so now let's get this thing going. Let's find the right spacing. So
and while you're getting the last spacing here, we have about 5, 6, 7 minutes. We do have some questions lining up. So as you're putting this together for the final showcase and run through of what we've done in the last 2 days, let us get into some questions. Now, Akemi is asking, general question, are there any accessibility related questions or related things you take into consideration when you're designing? I know we did a little bit of that yesterday, but just to recap on that.
Yes, absolutely. Always design for, design should be inclusive. Honestly, like, we shouldn't be designing and if you got to think of those things in mind. So one of the easiest thing you could do, I mean, this time is going to be hard, but and I'm going to do this little box again, and I'm going to do this, and we have softwares that makes our life so much easier, that does some of the work for us. But at a minimum, you should check your contrast, like, when you design, especially for like a site like this where we have a lot of type. So in stock, that's the name of this thing. I might spell it out this time. And they just do an amazing job. You just select your background and you select your top layer, and then they just tell you, like, you should at least meet a ratio of 4.5 to 1 at a minimum when you're designing in terms of contrast. Gray text on gray background looks great, but people can't beat it. So double A, but if you're doing like more like site for seniors, people that definitely have like, harder vision, you definitely want to be in the like AAA levels, even on normal text. And of course, for seniors, obviously, you want to make sure you use bigger fonts, and serif, depending, is easier to read than sans serif, because and that's the reason why, like, newspapers and things like that, they use serif when you have a lot of copy. The little extras in the serif makes it easier for you to kind of like process them. So I don't know the science behind it, but that's what they say. That's what I do. So yeah, I don't always know the science, but I just know they work. So I don't have to understand it to know it works. So, I don't know everything, and I can admit it. So yeah, yeah, this is it. I think we did it. I mean, there's some cleaning I would probably do. There's some more tweaking stuff, and just gonna turn off the grid and. Okay, let's maybe like just bring the footer in, because why not? We have time. I mean, see what's going on in the chat.
We had one, actually, what is the font you are using? I know you had them out. Yes, that was one of the questions.
I will definitely go back to that. For the footer, I'm just gonna copy the body copy. I'm actually gonna. I just realized that I'm gonna break this component because I no longer need it to be a component. So there's a couple ways we could do the footer. We could just keep it exactly like we did, and just left align it. And I have a back to top, because keep in mind, like, these pages are really long, and once you get to the bottom, you should definitely give the users a way to get back up really fast without having to scroll if they want to go back up. And we'll probably have the menu be fixed also, potentially. Maybe it won't be fixed when you're scrolling down because you're reading, but the moment your mouse goes back to go back up, then we'll bring the menu, because that indicates that you want to go back up. So we'll bring the menu so that it's an easier skip, because again, this is a very long page. So think of any way to like alleviate, like, the stress from the user to have to go up and down. So, but while you're scrolling, we probably will not have the menu, because we don't want it to be like blocking content. But if you decide to go scroll back up, then we'll show up the menu. And maybe this is the wrong approach, but this is how I would approach it. Happy to know if you guys have a different way of thinking about this or not. So. Like I said, I'm a student of design, always eager to learn new things. So just gonna.
And while we're putting that in, let's hop into this big question. We have about 2-ish, 3-ish minutes here. So while we are putting that in together, before we get into this last question, because I want us to do a really quick recap on everything that we did in the last 2 days, starting from desktop, and then get into this last question, and then we'll close out.
Awesome, perfect. I'll do that quick now. So we started with this, and now we're here. So I had to. I apologize. Okay, so this is the homepage that we did. Again, and for those of you that asked, the typefaces that we are using, we're only using 2. And that is Founder Grotesque and Sour Display. Amazing typefaces. They're not cheap. So, I apologize. But, again, there's definitely there might be some Google alternative. Look at Typewolf does a really great job of telling you alternatives of typefaces, but I want to get to this. So this is what we've done so far. This is the homepage that we did. And then from there, we started working on one of these pages, which is the French one. We didn't make it all the way to the end, but we got really far enough. So this is how you would go to the next section, just by clicking in this. And I probably would bring a previous version in this. And then from there, we did a mobile version for the homepage, which is this one, which is the last thing we did. So this is a mobile version of what we did on the homepage. Again, a lot of this is just me copying what we did on the homepage and resizing things. Because I'm just using type, I was able to think of it really fast. We didn't come up with any crazy layout, so it was a lot easier than if different project required different approach, obviously. So keep that in mind. But yeah, that's everything we did.
Awesome. And we are almost at the close here. We're literally 1 minute. So Jaslin is going to be in the Discord after today, or after this segment. So any questions you have for him that haven't been answered, you'll be able to ask him then. But Jaslin, as we're closing out here, is there anything that you would like to leave with the audience?
Just practice make perfect. If you guys want to do this, if you're interested in type as much as I am, reach out to me. Always happy to help. So really that's it. Just keep practicing, and I'm still practicing. I'm still learning. So, so just keep practicing. Practice make perfect. And I hope you guys enjoy this, because I did. So this was fun.
Likewise, most definitely. Well, you guys, if you had and enjoyed yourself, don't forget to hit the like button, and we will see you guys over on the Discord channel to answer the rest of your questions. We'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.